At what point did you start living like a guest in your own life? One day you realize you know how to take care of everyone, support everyone, understand everyone, except yourself. And the worst part is not that you lost yourself. The worst part is that you keep justifying what slowly erased you, as if disappearing inside were the normal price of being loved. Stay with me. Gabriel here. Welcome to the Stoic Garden. Today we're going to walk through 7 practical stages to learn how to love yourself after losing yourself, with wisdom you can actually apply in real life, not just write down in a pretty notebook. If you stay until the end, you'll walk away with a clear structure to rebuild yourself with dignity, choose yourself again without guilt, and close this chapter with a purpose that finally supports you from within. Now, let's begin. 1. Accept that you lost yourself and stop justifying what destroyed you. Because the first thing someone who has lost themselves does is not look for themselves but defend the wrong map. You tell yourself it wasn't that bad, that you were partly to blame too, that relationships are just like that work is hard, that family is family. And while you keep repeating that story, you stay in the very same place where you slowly went dim. Losing yourself usually doesn't happen through one epic event. It happens through small concessions that become habits. You stay quiet once to avoid conflict, and then you stay quiet again so you won't complicate things. You accept disrespect because you were tired. You swallow discomfort because you don't want to be dramatic. And before you know it, you're no longer living. You're managing your own silence like it's rent you pay so you won't get thrown out. The problem is not that you made a mistake. That happens to all of us. The problem is the story you built so you wouldn't have to face the truth head on. Justifying what destroyed you is like sweeping broken glass under the rug and then walking barefoot over it. That's not bravery, that's denial dressed up nicely. And halfway down the road, the uncomfortable question shows up, the one that changes your whole posture when you hear it. Were you really enduring it out of love? Or were you enduring it because you were afraid of being left alone with yourself? Because fear invents very elegant reasons. It convinces you that you're strong when you're actually exhausted. It sells you maturity when what it really is resignation. The Stoics were brutal about this, not because they were cold, but because they were clear-eyed. Epictetus, who did not speak from a comfortable chair but from the experience of having been a slave, insisted that before reacting, you must examine the impression that enters your mind, the way you would inspect a coin before accepting it. If your mind tells you, stay, it's fine, you need to ask whether that's true or whether it's just habit trying to survive. Accepting that you lost yourself means stopping the cover-up. It means saying quietly, without making a scene, what you've been avoiding saying. I stayed where I wasn't cared for. I erased myself so others wouldn't get upset. I adapted so much that I became distorted. And yes, it hurts to admit it, but it hurts more to keep living as if that reduced version of you were the original plan. Here's the practical part. When you notice yourself justifying, stop and replace it with a simple sentence that doesn't negotiate. This is taking away my peace. This is taking away my dignity. This is taking away my life. You don't need to build a case. You don't need to convince anyone. You just need to stop betraying yourself with pretty words. Because every time you justify it, you train yourself to endure. And every time you name the truth, you train yourself to choose yourself. You don't need some huge revelation. You need steady honesty. That is the beginning of loving yourself again. Stop protecting what broke you and start protecting yourself. And once you finally accept that you lost yourself, the next monster shows up wearing the face of a good person. Guilt. The kind that tells you you don't deserve a fresh start until you've punished yourself enough. Let's go there. 2. Let go of guilt and forgive yourself without excuses or drama. Because guilt, when misunderstood, does not make you better. It makes you obedient. It puts an invisible chain around you and then convinces you that it's moral. It whispers that because you failed, because you allowed things, because you made mistakes, you have to pay with years of self-punishment. And of course, the world is delighted to see you that way, small, apologizing for existing. Healthy guilt is brief and useful. It shows you a mistake, pushes you to correct it, and then lets go. Unhealthy guilt, on the other hand, moves into your chest as if it owns the place. It makes you replay the scene 1,000 times, makes you speak to yourself the way you would speak to your worst enemy, and calls it responsibility. No, that is not responsibility. That is violence against yourself disguised as conscience. Forgiving yourself is not saying, "I had nothing to do with it." It is also not becoming melodramatic and turning your past into a sad movie you replay to feel profound. Forgiving yourself means accepting that you did what you could with the level of clarity you had at the time. Sometimes people lose themselves because they didn't know how to set boundaries, sometimes because they were starving for approval, sometimes because they were broken and looking for anesthesia. That explains it, not excuses it, and at the same time it gives your power back. And in the middle of this process, there is a question many people fear because it breaks the character they've been playing. What has punishing yourself actually done for you so far? What has it repaired exactly? Because some people cling to guilt as if it were proof of self-awareness, as if saying, "I'm a mess," were a form of humility. It isn't humility. It's just another way of spinning around yourself without moving. Stoicism does not ask you to forgive yourself so you can feel good. It asks you to forgive yourself so you can act well. There is a huge difference. Epictetus said it is not events themselves that disturb us, but the judgments we make about them. Translated into your life, your past is already over. What is breaking you today is the cruel judgment with which you hit yourself every morning. So forgiveness becomes concrete. It looks like a decision you repeat. You speak to yourself with respect even when it doesn't come naturally. You accept the lesson without turning it into a life sentence. If you hurt someone, you own it and repair what can be repaired without theatrics. If you hurt yourself, you stop doing it a second time with your thoughts. And yes, there will be days when guilt comes back like a dog that learned to scratch at the door. That's when you do not negotiate, you do not argue, you do not stage a philosophical debate in your head. You look at it and say, "I understand now, I learned, I am acting differently." Because the best apology is not a sentence, it is sustained behavior. There is a piece of sarcasm you need to swallow once and for all. Punishing yourself does not make you more worthy. It just makes you easier to manipulate. People who hate themselves settle for crumbs because they believe they do not deserve bread. But when you forgive yourself seriously, without drama, you stop begging for redemption from the outside and start building it within. So let go of guilt the way you let go of a stone that has already worn your arm out. Not because everything is fine, but because you have decided to get better. And from there, the most important question opens up, the one that comes after forgiveness. Who are you now without that old story ruling you? 3. Reclaim your identity and choose yourself again at this age with dignity. Because after losing yourself, the problem is not only that the past hurts, it's that you no longer know who you are without that pain, without that dynamic, without that version of you that lived reacting to everyone else. A lot of people think identity is an emotion. It isn't. Identity is a set of repeated decisions. It is what you do when no one is applauding. It is what you tolerate when no one is watching. It is what you choose when you could take the easy way out and still go with what is right. And if you lost yourself, it is because for too long you chose what was comfortable for others and what was uncomfortable for you. Go back to the real scene. You did not wake up every morning saying, "Today I'm going to abandon myself." It happens through micro-betrayals, giving in a little here, staying quiet a little there, laughing at something that hurt you, putting up with something that embarrassed you. And when that becomes routine, you no longer recognize yourself. You look in the mirror and see someone who functions, but does not feel like their own. This is the point where many people fool themselves with a dangerous phrase. It's too late to change. Sure, and it's also too late to keep playing the role of a diminished version of yourself, yet here you are, still doing it, right? At this stage, you do not need to reinvent yourself as if your life was starting from zero. You need to remember which part of you got buried under people-pleasing. Halfway through this road, a question appears that cuts through the fog. If today you did not have to please anyone, if no one could get upset, if no one could judge you, what would you choose to do with your time and your energy? Because in that answer, your real identity starts to appear, the one that does not ask permission. And here's the practical part. Start choosing yourself in small, visible ways, because your mind believes what it sees. If you always say yes, say no once and stand by it. If you always adapt, hold on to one of your own preferences without justifying it. If you always stay quiet, speak one simple truth even if your voice shakes. Not to argue, to exist. Dignity is not about becoming hard toward the world. It is about becoming steady with yourself. It is about stopping the negotiation of your worth according to someone else's mood. It is walking with an inner posture of, this is who I am, without needing to sell it, explain it, or ask permission to be. Mission. And something is going to make you uncomfortable because life is ironic like that. When you return to yourself, some people will feel attacked, not because you are attacking them, but because you are no longer so easy to handle. Before you were predictable, useful, the one who adjusted. Now you are starting to become someone with a center. And for people who live by pushing boundaries, that is bad news. Reclaiming your identity is the moment when you stop being a place people pass through and become a home. And once you finally become a home, one consequence is inevitable. You start protecting the door. And that means boundaries, not as punishment, but as self-respect. 4. Set firm boundaries and stop begging for love, attention, or approval. Because when a person does not love themselves, they do something very sad and very common. They make themselves cheap. They give away their time, their body, their patience, their energy, their dignity, just to feel chosen by someone who does not even know what they want. Boundaries are not a wall. They are a line that says this is as far as what I allow goes, and beyond this point the price begins. And yes, some people get angry when you set boundaries, but not because you are mean. It's because they were used to walking into your life without knocking. This is where I'll tell you the way it plays out in the real world. Someone who respects you does not need you to beg. Someone who cares for you does not need you to chase them. Someone who loves you does not make you compete for crumbs. And even so, there you were, reading into signals, waiting for messages, reaching out as if love were a favor someone does for you. Halfway through this, a question shows up that leaves you with no excuses. Are you setting boundaries to protect yourself, or are you negotiating your boundaries so people won't leave you? Because that is the trap. You think that if you are more understanding, more patient, more available, more easy, they will choose you. And what often happens is the opposite. They use you, drain you, and then call you intense once you finally get tired. Firm boundaries are not shouted. They are held. A firm boundary is saying no without a novel, without a thesis, without apologizing for breathing. It is saying, this doesn't work for me. I don't accept this, not like this. And staying in that position even when the other person puts on a show. Because the show is not an argument, it is pressure. There is a phrase that works like a vaccine against other people's approval. Ralph Waldo Emerson, a man who spoke often about moral self-reliance and not living on your knees before public opinion, summed it up like this. Trust in your own conscience is worth more than the unstable applause of public opinion. And in your life that means something simple. Your peace is worth more than being liked. Now, do not confuse boundaries with coldness. This is not about becoming a rock that feels nothing. It is about stopping yourself from being an all-you-can-eat buffet for anyone who shows up emotionally starving. You can be kind and still be firm. You can love and still walk away. You can listen and still say enough. Firmness does not kill love. It kills abuse. And here comes the point that is hard for many people because it touches pride. When you stop begging, it shows. It shows in how you respond, how you walk, how you no longer rush to prove anything. People can feel when you are no longer available for games, and the person who was with you out of convenience is going to get offended. Perfect. That is information too. Set boundaries and you will lose some people, yes. But what you gain is more valuable and more rare. You gain yourself. And from there you no longer trade love for crumbs, you no longer buy attention with sacrifice, you no longer rent out your dignity for a little approval. From there you begin to build something real, and what is real is sustained by habits, not promises. 5. Rebuild your self-esteem with daily habits, not emotional promises, because self-esteem is not fixed with a pretty speech in front of the mirror or with one night of, this time I'm choosing myself, only to go back the next day to doing the same things that break you. Self-esteem is trust, and trust is only born when you prove to yourself, through actions, that you can count on you. Look at how it works in real life. You do not respect someone because they sit down and declare, I'm disciplined. You respect them because they do what they say. Period. It is the same with you. Every promise you make to yourself and break, no matter how small, trains you to distrust yourself. And every simple thing you follow through on, even if no one sees it, rebuilds you from the inside, brick by brick. The problem is that you became addicted to the emotion of the beginning, that this is it energy, that rush of deleting chats, writing plans, swearing you will change. And then Tuesday comes, along with the exhaustion, the anxiety, the emptiness, and you go back to what is familiar. That is where the mask falls. That is where you see whether you are loving yourself or just entertaining yourself. Halfway through this, a question appears that gives you nowhere to hide. What confidence are you supposed to have in yourself if you fail yourself every day in the basics? It is not drama. It is logic. If you do not follow through with yourself, your mind learns that your word means nothing. And if your word means nothing, what are you supposed to build dignity with? So bring it down to earth. Start with small promises, almost ridiculous ones, but sacred. Things you can keep even on a bad day. Not to feel productive, but to start seeing yourself again as someone reliable. The person who loves themselves does not demand perfection. They demand consistency. The person who loves themselves does not punish themselves. They train themselves. And real training is not epic. It is repeated. And yes, there will come a moment when your mind asks for the old escape route. It doesn't matter if I skip it today. Sure, today it does not matter, except that you are teaching yourself once again to abandon yourself. It is funny how self-deception always speaks in a soft, reasonable voice, as if it were your friend. But that friend leaves you just as empty as before. Your self-esteem is rebuilt when you do what is right, even when you do not feel like it. When you get up, even when the emotion is not there. When you choose yourself even when no one celebrates it. And when you start seeing yourself follow through, without a show, without an announcement, without promising the world, something changes. You are no longer asking for love. You are earning it quietly. And to sustain habits, you do not need infinite willpower. You need a body and a mind that are not completely run down. Because it is very easy to talk about self-esteem when you slept well and you are calm. Let's take care of that home, because if your house is in ruins, everything becomes harder than it needs to be. 6. Take care of your body and mind as your home. Because sometimes you say what you lack is motivation, but what you really lack is sleep. You say you lack direction, but what you actually have too much of is noise. You say you cannot handle your life, but you have been living for months with the tank on empty and still expecting yourself to perform like a brand new machine. Your body is not an accessory. It is the place where you are going to live for the rest of your life. And if you treat it like a dumping ground, do not be surprised when your mind starts acting like a dark street. When you sleep badly, everything feels personal. Any comment throws you off. Any silence makes you invent a story. Any small failure feels like a sentence, not because you are weak, but because you are exhausted. Here comes an idea Seneca repeated with the clarity of someone who understood human self-deception. He said, "It is not that we have little time, it is that we lose a lot of it." And yes, it sounds harsh, but it is freeing. Because if you are losing it, you can also take it back. Not with big promises, but with simple discipline, almost boring discipline. The kind you do not negotiate away on a whim. Taking care of yourself as your home shows up in basic decisions. Sleeping like an adult who respects themselves, not like someone who punishes themselves with screens until 2 in the morning. Eating and moving like someone who wants to stay clear-headed, not like someone trying to numb out. Giving yourself moments of calm without asking the world for permission. Cutting down the noise because noise is fuel for anxiety. And here is what will bring you peace if you understand it. Simple discipline is not a rigid life. It is a less chaotic life. It is taking space away from what throws you off so you can give that space back to yourself. And when your system calms down, your decisions become cleaner. You stop reacting so much. You stop crawling after attention. You stop sabotaging yourself out of exhaustion. Some people think taking care of yourself is selfish. It is funny because that idea usually comes from the people who benefited when you were not taking care of yourself. Taking care of yourself is responsibility. It is saying, if I am my home, then I am not going to live at war with myself. When you start sleeping better, breathing without rushing, and keeping a simple routine, life stops feeling like a constant fight. And then the next step appears, the one that gives meaning to all of this. Because taking care of yourself and rebuilding yourself is not just so you can endure. It is so you can live with direction. It is so you can create a real purpose in this stage of your life and become your own best company. 7. Create a purpose for this stage of your life and become your own best company. Because after rebuilding yourself, setting boundaries, taking care of your body, and learning to trust yourself again, the question comes that no one else can answer for you. What for? If you do not give your life direction, life will give you one. And most of the time it will be the same old direction, the one that pulls you back to what is familiar, the one that makes you repeat the same patterns with a different face. Purpose is not an inspirational phrase hanging on a wall. It is a practical reason to get up with dignity when the emotion is nowhere to be found. And this is where many people lose themselves again, waiting to feel ready, or waiting for a sign from the universe, as if the universe were your personal assistant. It is not going to happen. Clarity does not come before movement. It comes during movement. You move, you choose, you adjust, and that is how the path takes shape. Becoming your own best company is the part that hurts at first and frees you later. Because if you cannot stand being with yourself, you will tolerate anyone. You will look for noise, messages, validation, drama, whatever it takes to avoid sitting in silence with your own life. And then you wonder why you end up in places that drain you. It is not bad luck. It is avoidance. Halfway through this process, watch yourself honestly. How much of what you do in your day is really yours, and how much of it is just to avoid feeling empty? How many times do you say you are busy when really you are just distracted? That emptiness is not your enemy. It is a space asking for direction. It is the place where purpose is built not with emotion but with decision. A purpose for this stage of your life can be simple and still be enormous. It can be getting your health back, organizing your finances, learning something you kept putting off, strengthening your mind, creating a stable routine, becoming an adult who respects themselves, caring for your loved ones without abandoning yourself, or serving as a guide for someone coming behind you. It does not sound glamorous, but it is real. And what is real holds you up more than any fantasy ever will. Marcus Aurelius, who had the whole world on his shoulders and still wrote so he would not lose himself inside, reminded himself of something brutally simple. Stop wasting time arguing about what a good person should be and be one. Translated into your life, stop debating with yourself and start acting like the version of you that you say you want to be, even if you are trembling today. Purpose becomes visible when your behavior makes it visible. And when you become your own best company, you start choosing differently. You no longer walk into conversations where you have to shrink yourself. You no longer hold on to relationships where they give you crumbs and expect gratitude. You are no longer afraid when someone leaves because you already have yourself. And that changes everything. Loneliness stops being a threat and becomes a filter. In the end, loving yourself after losing yourself is not about looking at yourself tenderly one day and forgetting yourself the next. It is about building a life that does not depend on someone choosing you for you to choose yourself. It is about having a purpose that brings order to your life, a simple discipline that holds you up, and an inner companion that does not betray you. When that exists, you do not lose yourself so easily anymore because you finally learned how to come back. Learning to love yourself after losing yourself is not a romantic act. It is an act of inner authority. It begins when you stop justifying what broke you, when you let go of the guilt that kept you on your knees, when you reclaim your identity through small decisions, when you set boundaries without being afraid of disappointing people who never truly cared for you, and when you begin respecting yourself again through habits that prove your word means something. And it reaches its peak when you understand that your life needs direction, not applause. Take this into your day today. You do not need to do it perfectly. You need to do it for real. Choose one action that gives you back your dignity and follow through even if you do not feel like it. Say one truth you have been avoiding. Close one door that was draining you. Go to bed at a decent hour. Take a walk even if it is just for a little while. Write down what you want to build in this stage of your life and behave like someone who respects themselves. Your peace does not come when the world changes. It comes when you stop abandoning yourself. If this video called you out and gave you structure, subscribe so you can keep training this mindset seriously. And in the comments, write one sentence. I take care of myself with wisdom. I want to read you, and if you feel like it, tell me what country you are watching from too, so I can see how far this community is reaching. Gabriel here. Welcome to the Stoic Garden. On the screen you will see 2 recommended videos, so you can keep building this character and this piece with order, not impulse. Pick one and keep going, because when you become your own foundation, no one can shake you the way they used to.